Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. I Am Legend, 2007, follows Dr. Robert Neville, a military scientist who appears to be the last human alive in a deserted, post-apocalyptic New York City. A virus originally created to cure cancer has turned most of the world's population into terrifying mutants called Darkseekers. Neville, immune to the virus, spends his days scavenging for food and supplies while researching a cure, hoping to reverse the damage. His only companion is his dog, Sam. As Neville continues his experiments, he believes he has found a potential cure in his own blood. However, his efforts are met with failure, and his isolation deepens, especially after losing Sam to the Darkseekers. In his search for other survivors, Neville encounters Anna and her young companion, Ethan, who reveal they are headed to a safe zone where humanity might still be surviving. Neville realizes that his blood could hold the key to a cure, and in a moment of self-sacrifice, he lures the Darkseekers into a trap, using himself as bait to allow Anna and Ethan to escape with the cure. In the end, Neville dies, but his sacrifice brings hope for the future, as Anna and Ethan head to the promised safe zone with the cure, signaling the possibility of rebuilding humanity. The film begins with a televised interview of a famous scientist, where she claims to have invented a cure for cancer, but this cure relies on genetically modifying the measles virus and injecting it into the cancer patient. And after 3 years of the treatment's spread, the world has been completely destroyed and there are no humans left alive because, instead of curing cancer, the treatment became a deadly virus that wiped out humanity. The world has become almost empty and only one person, Robert, with his dog Sam. He is now driving his car in the deserted city, knowing that the world is empty, so he plays with the car freely. While driving, Robert finds a large herd of deer, chases them in his car and tries to hunt one with his rifle, but they escape from him. He stops at a point where he can't drive the car any further, so he gets out and follows the deer on foot until he finds a doe that has strayed from the herd. At that moment, a tiger and lions with their cubs appear and start hunting the deer. Robert decides to leave it to them, takes his dog Sam, and returns home because he fears the nightfall. When he gets home, he spends some time with his dog eating, then gives it a bath. And when the sun begins to set, Robert starts closing the iron wooden doors he has placed in every corner of the house. He sleeps with his dog while holding his weapon, as if he fears something specific appearing at night. That night, Robert hears strange noises in the streets, and it becomes clear that something unknown is moving outside. While he sleeps, Robert dreams of an old memory, and in the dream, he remembers a moment 3 years ago, at the beginning of the end of the world. In that memory, Robert was with his soldiers on his way to his wife's house, and the scene reveals that Robert was a colonel in the army. Robert takes his wife, daughter, and some soldiers to protect them, and they quickly escape by car. His wife didn't fully understand the situation, so he explained to her that a doctor had developed a cancer treatment using a virus, but instead of curing the disease, the virus killed half of humanity, and the other half turned into zombies. He decides to take them to the port where there are ships and planes that transport people to a safe place. He tells her that he won't be able to go with them, and that he has to stay to try to find a cure. The plane arrives at the port, and the wife, daughter, and soldiers are evacuated. But as Robert is leaving the plane, he meets a tragic fate. As the army begins bombing the city to contain the epidemic, another plane veers off course, collides with the plane carrying his wife and daughter, and explodes. Robert watches in silence, powerless to help them, and breaks down when he realizes they all died suddenly. From that moment on, Robert becomes lonely, trying to find a cure for the pandemic. Robert is a scientist, and for now, he lives alone in an attempt to find a cure. He exercises in the morning before descending to the basement of his house, which he has converted into a large laboratory where he conducts experiments using infected mice. Despite his numerous attempts, the treatments were unsuccessful. But one day he notices a positive response in one of the mice, which brings him joy, though more tests are still needed. And then, Robert heads to his office with his dog Sam to pick up some books, trying to keep his mind together by paying attention to small details like treating the mice as if they were human. Then he goes to the field to pick some of the crops he planted, and visits the neighboring houses in search of food. In one of the houses, he finds a children's room, which stirs sadness in him and makes him remember his daughter. After that, he heads to a gas station to fill up his car. Every day, he sends a message over the radio, asking anyone alive to contact him, but he receives no response. On another day, Robert is playing golf on a military plane and notices a distant deer. He goes with his dog to chase it, but it enters a large, dark building. Robert follows it, but his dog Sam goes in after it. At that moment, Robert felt intense fear and started shouting at Sam to come out, but he didn't come out. With great courage, Robert composed himself and entered the building with his weapon to search for the dog. He continued to search cautiously, knowing and certain that there was a zombie hiding somewhere. But he kept searching for the dog until he was surprised by a large herd of zombies standing in front of him. Quickly, he hid his weapon and returned quietly, and was about to leave when he was surprised by Sam appearing from a nearby hiding spot. So he tried to get Sam out and escaped with him. But suddenly, one of the zombies attacked him and killed him immediately, and then they caught Sam. They continued running until the zombie managed to catch Robert, who jumped out of the window into the street. Fortunately, he landed on the zombie and was unharmed. But strangely, the zombies, as soon as they were exposed to sunlight, began to burn to death, proving that they cannot withstand light. Therefore, they hide in dark buildings all day and come out at night. After that, Robert reassured the dog and made sure it was okay, then decided to catch one of the zombies to conduct some experiments. He entered the building again, but he was too close to the light, and he set a trap using a bag with a piece of blood. He waited until one of the zombies approached the bag and succeeded in catching it. He noticed that the zombie husband he had caught wanted to get his wife out, but he couldn't because of the sun. Robert looked at her with a vengeful gaze and returned to the building. On the way back, Robert felt anxious because of the strange look the zombie had given him. But he continued with his mission and took the zombie woman to his lab, where he gave her the same dose that had healed him before and kept her behind the insulated glass in the lab. After Robert left the lab, he recorded everything that happened to him that day on a video on his computer, commenting on the zombie that tried to kill him despite the sun and wondered about their feelings. But he decided that it didn't matter to him. He closed the video and went to sleep. The next day, Robert woke up, took the arrow, and went out for a stroll as usual. He went to the sidewalk to wait for anyone, but no one showed up. He began to lose hope in his life and everything. At the end of the day, while he was returning home, he discovered that a zombie was standing in the middle of the street. Robert went crazy because he wasn't the one who put the zombie there, so he started shooting at it. Then he shot everywhere around him. Robert really felt like he was starting to lose his mind. Then he calmed down a bit and realized he was losing control, so he went to check on the zombie. Unfortunately, he forgot that he had set a trap for the zombie, so he fell into it and got entangled, causing him to lose consciousness. After a while, Robert woke up to find himself tied up, and the sun was setting, so he used his knife to cut the rope, but he injured himself in the leg. Despite the pain, he began to crawl towards his car to escape, but suddenly, a group of zombies appeared with zombie dogs. Robert continued to crawl to his car to get his weapon, and fortunately, he managed to get it. However, the dogs had already approached him, and a fierce battle ensued between him and Sam until they finally managed to get rid of them. But unfortunately, Sam was bitten several times and was on the verge of dying after defending Robert. At that moment, Robert felt an intense fear at the thought of losing Sam, so he immediately took his car and went to the lab, where he tried to treat him and gave him the dose he had taken earlier. But the treatment didn't work, and Sam turned into a zombie. Robert pushed him with all his strength until he was done with him, and he was crying bitterly. The next day, Robert went out to bury Sam in his place, and he was very sad. After burying him, he stood by his side, having lost all hope in life. Robert then decided to take revenge on the zombies, even if it meant his own death. He took his car at night and went to the sidewalk, where he waited for the zombies to arrive. Then he started running over them one by one. He kept running them over until his car flipped. At that moment, a bright light appeared, and the person driving the car fled. Robert quickly regained consciousness from the overturned car and realized that the person who had saved him was a woman. She took him to her car, and he got in with her. After a while, he fainted, and when he woke up, he discovered that he was in the woman's house. She had treated his wound and told him that she had been on a military ship, but over time, the supplies ran out, and they couldn't return to it. She told him that she had heard about a safe city near the mountain, where there were no zombies nearby. At that moment, Robert kept telling her that there was no city and no people. All the people died without exception, and even if there were any, you shouldn't leave the place because this is the first place the epidemic spread. He added that he could fix things as long as he was there. Then Robert left the place and went down to the lab to continue working on the zombie he had at that time. And when Anna entered and saw the zombie, she started asking him about the progress of the treatment and what had been achieved so far. After a while, they finished working in the lab and went out to rest. They put Essen in a room to sleep, and there she noticed a picture of a girl on the table, realizing that Robert had a daughter who had passed away. They went down together and talked a little. Anna wanted Robert to go with her and Essen to the safe city located at the mountain, but Robert insisted that everyone was dead and that the zombies were the only remaining ones, so there was no safe city. While Robert was continuing his talk, he heard a great noise coming from an army of zombies approaching the house. He looked out the window to find a large army attacking the place. At that moment, Anna took her son, Ethan, while Robert began turning on the lights he had placed around the house. But the zombies didn't stop, so he detonated all the explosives he had placed around the house. It's true that the explosives took out a large part of the zombies, but they also created gaps in the house, allowing some zombies to enter and start fighting with Robert. Robert continued to defend himself until he managed to reach his weapon, causing the zombies to flee. But one of them escaped outside the house. Robert went out to check on Essen and found them hiding in the room with some zombies. Quickly, he used a gun that was next to him and killed the zombie. Then he looked out the window to discover that the zombie he had been fighting was probably their leader, and he was sending more zombies to kill Robert and his companions. Quickly, Robert took Anna and Essen and went down with them to the lab's basement, where he closed the glass door that protected them from the zombies. However, the zombies broke into the basement, but the insulated glass prevented them from reaching them. Robert remained uninterested in the zombie because he was looking at the zombie on whom he was conducting experiments, and he noticed that it was starting to return to its normal state, which meant that his treatment had finally been successful. But he realized that the zombie was about to break the glass, so he quickly took Anna and Essen and placed them in the fireplace inside the room. After that, he took a blood sample from the zombie he was treating, handed it to Anna, and told her that this sample contained the cure he had developed. Then he said to her, "I will now finish off the zombies. You and Essen must leave here before dawn and go to the city you told me about. Perhaps you will find a cure for the world." He bid her farewell and closed the metal door, then went out to place a bomb he had hidden somewhere, waiting for the zombies to break the glass. And after they did that, he opened the grenade and threw himself on it, resulting in a massive explosion that wiped out all the zombies. Unfortunately, a few days after this event, Anna and her son were in the car on their way to the safe city. In the end, they arrived at the city where they found many people living a normal life in a city isolated from all calamities. Of course, Anna was very happy and started giving her the blood sample she had taken from Robert. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button to get more new videos.